What if I told you that the food you've been told to eat your whole life for better eyesight, the humble carrot, is actually one of the least powerful foods for protecting your vision, and that sitting quietly in your kitchen spice rack right now is a tiny, underestimated seed that ancient physicians used to treat eye disease, a seed that modern science is now confirming can reduce inflammation inside the eye, protect the retina from oxidative damage, help regulate eye pressure, and support the very cellular machinery that keeps your vision sharp as you age? I'm not talking about an exotic supplement. I'm talking about fennel seeds. Now, before you scroll past this thinking it's just another herbal remedy claim, stay with me. Because what's happening inside your eyes right now, especially if you're over 40, is a physiological process called oxidative stress. And it is silently destroying the most metabolically active tissue in your entire body, your retina. The retina consumes more oxygen per gram of tissue than virtually any other organ in the human body. That's a remarkable fact, and the consequence of that extraordinary energy demand is an equally extraordinary production of reactive oxygen species, free radicals that, if left unchecked, corrode your photoreceptors, inflame your cornea, damage your lens, and accelerate every major eye disease you've been told is just part of getting older. Glaucoma, cataracts, dry eye syndrome, age-related macular degeneration. These are not inevitable. They are largely the result of chronic inflammation and oxidative damage playing out over decades, damage that the right nutrients can dramatically slow and, in many cases, prevent. Here's what makes this story compelling. Most people are reaching for eye drops, blue light glasses, and vitamin A supplements thinking they're protecting their eyes. But vitamin A alone, the nutrient in carrots, addresses only one narrow mechanism of vision. It helps your eyes adapt to low light. It does not fight the deep inflammatory and oxidative processes that cause the most serious forms of vision loss. Fennel seeds, on the other hand, contain a sophisticated cocktail of bioactive compounds: vitamin C, beta-carotene, potassium, zinc, iron, flavonoids, and a unique compound called anethol that address eye health at multiple levels simultaneously. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how fennel seeds work inside your eyes, what the science actually shows, how to use them, and how to combine them with other evidence-based strategies to protect your vision for decades to come. Here is what we're going to cover: 2 to why your retina is the most vulnerable tissue in your body and what's silently destroying it. The real root cause of most age-related vision loss, it's not what you think, what fennel seeds actually contain, and how each compound targets eye disease at the cellular level, how fennel seeds compare to carrots, eye drops, and conventional eye supplements, the ancient tradition of fennel for eye health, and what modern research confirms a simple, practical daily protocol for using fennel seeds to protect your vision starting today. Let me start with something that fundamentally changed the way I think about eye health, and it's a fact that most people, and frankly, most general practitioners, never fully appreciate. Your retina is not just sensitive tissue, it is, gram for gram, the highest oxygen-consuming tissue in the entire human body. Let that land for a moment. Higher than your brain, higher than your heart. Your retina has an oxygen consumption rate that is truly extraordinary. And that extraordinary metabolic demand comes with an extraordinary consequence. Here's what's really going on inside your body when you use your eyes every single day. Think of your retina like a high-performance engine. The more powerful the engine, the more fuel it burns, and the more exhaust it produces. In biological terms, that exhaust is reactive oxygen species, or free radicals. These are unstable molecules that your mitochondria produce as a natural byproduct of energy generation. In small amounts, they're manageable. Your body has a built-in antioxidant defense system, enzymes like superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase that neutralize them before they cause damage. But here's where the problem begins. As you age, your endogenous antioxidant defenses decline. Your diet becomes less micronutrient dense. You're exposed to blue spectrum light from screens for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You may be carrying chronic low-grade inflammation. All of these factors accelerate the production of free radicals in your eye, and your body's ability to neutralize them weakens. The result is what scientists call oxidative stress. A landmark 2023 review published in the journal Nutrients described this beautifully. When the equilibrium between reactive oxygen species production and antioxidant scavenging is disrupted, radical generation overwhelms the endogenous antioxidant arsenal, leading to oxidative stress-related eye disorders and accelerated aging. This is not abstract. This oxidative cascade damages your DNA. It damages the proteins in your lens, causing them to aggregate and turn opaque, which is what we call a cataract. It damages the photoreceptor cells in your macula, causing the central vision loss we call macular degeneration. It damages the trabecular meshwork that drains fluid from your eye, raising intraocular pressure, which leads to glaucoma. It damages your corneal surface cells, causing dry eye disease, one root cause, multiple diseases, and here is where the conversation shifts entirely, because what counteracts oxidative stress? Antioxidants. Specifically, a diverse portfolio of antioxidants, vitamin C, vitamin E, carotenoids, flavonoids, zinc, and plant polyphenols that work through different but complementary mechanisms to neutralize free radicals, reduce inflammation, and support the structural integrity of your ocular tissue. This is why food matters so much for eye health, not as a supplement to your eye drops, but as the primary intervention. When you build your diet around antioxidant-dense foods, you're rebuilding the very defense system your eyes are desperately relying on. Now, if you're finding this helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day, translating the science of functional medicine into tools you can actually use. And let me tell you why fennel seeds belong at the center of this conversation. Before we talk about fennel seeds specifically, I want to spend a moment on what's actually driving the global vision loss epidemic, because the numbers are staggering and the cause is almost entirely preventable. The World Health Organization estimates that over 2.2 billion people worldwide suffer from some form of vision impairment. Age-related macular degeneration, cataracts, glaucoma, and diabetic retinopathy together represent the leading causes of blindness globally. And the common thread running through all of them, the root cause, is chronic inflammation combined with oxidative damage, usually compounded by poor metabolic health. Let me explain the metabolic connection, because this is not something most eye doctors are talking about. When your blood sugar is chronically elevated, even in what doctors call the pre-diabetic range, it triggers a process called glycation. Glucose molecules attach to proteins and fats in your bloodstream and tissues, forming advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These AGEs are highly inflammatory, and in the eye, they are particularly destructive. They damage the tiny capillaries that supply blood to your retina. They trigger immune responses that attack the retinal pigment epithelium, the single layer of cells beneath your photoreceptors that does the critical job of recycling visual pigment and removing metabolic waste. This is exactly what happens in diabetic retinopathy, but you don't need a diabetes diagnosis for this process to be occurring. Millions of people with normal fasting glucose are still producing significant glycation damage post-meal, particularly after high-carbohydrate processed meals. Here's the analogy I like to use. Imagine your retinal capillaries as tiny garden hoses delivering water to a greenhouse. Glycation is like slowly crimping those hoses, year after year. The greenhouse starts getting less water, the plants stress, then wilt, then die. By the time the damage is visible on an eye scan, years of silent destruction have already occurred. Now compound that with insulin resistance, which drives up cortisol and systemic inflammation, reduces your antioxidant capacity, and promotes the accumulation of advanced lipid oxidation products in the retina. And you begin to understand why so many people are losing their vision in their 50s and 60s, thinking it was just genetics. It is not just genetics. Genetics loads the gun. Metabolic health and diet pull the trigger. This is why the age-related eye disease study, one of the most important clinical trials in ophthalmology, showed that antioxidant supplementation with vitamins C and E, beta-carotene, and zinc reduced the risk of advanced AMD by 25%. Not a drug, not surgery. Antioxidants and minerals, the exact class of compounds found in concentrated form in fennel seeds. The question becomes, where do you get these compounds? You can take isolated supplements, or you can use whole foods that contain these compounds in their natural, synergistic ratios, compounds that work together the way nature designed them to. That's the case I want to make for fennel seeds. Now let's get into the biochemistry, and I promise to make this clear and practical. Fennel seeds, botanically known as Feniculum vulgar, are nutritional powerhouses for ocular health specifically because of a combination of compounds that few single foods can match. Let me walk you through each one. First, vitamin C. Fennel seeds contain a meaningful dose of ascorbic acid, and this matters enormously for your eyes. Why? Because vitamin C is one of the primary antioxidants found naturally inside the aqueous humor, the fluid that fills the front chamber of your eye. Your body actively concentrates vitamin C in ocular tissue at levels far higher than in the blood, which tells you something important about how critical this vitamin is to eye defense. Research shows that vitamin C activity inside the lens helps reduce peroxidation, the oxidative degradation of fats, which is a primary driver of cataract formation. Second, beta-carotene and vitamin A precursors. Yes, carrots contain beta-carotene, but so does fennel, along with a much richer portfolio of additional protective compounds. Beta-carotene is a carotenoid that your body converts to vitamin A as needed. Vitamin A is essential for producing rhodopsin, the photosensitive pigment in your rod cells that allows you to see in low light. But more importantly, for long-term eye health, carotenoids act as powerful antioxidants in the retina, filtering harmful wavelengths of light and quenching free radicals before they can damage photoreceptors. Third, zinc. This trace mineral plays an underappreciated role in visual function. Zinc is found in high concentrations in the retina and choroid, the vascular layer beneath the retina. It is required as a cofactor for the enzyme superoxide dismutase, your eye's frontline antioxidant enzyme. Zinc also participates in the transport and metabolism of vitamin A in retinal tissue. The ARED study demonstrated that zinc supplementation meaningfully reduced AMD progression, and fennel seeds provide this mineral in a bioavailable, food-based form. Fourth, potassium. Here's one that surprises people. Potassium plays a critical role in regulating intraocular pressure, the pressure inside the eye. When intraocular pressure is chronically elevated, it compresses the optic nerve, gradually destroying the nerve fibers that transmit visual signals from the retina to the brain. This is glaucoma, and while the relationship between dietary potassium and intraocular pressure is an area of ongoing research, the physiological logic is clear. Potassium helps regulate fluid balance at the cellular level, and adequate potassium intake is part of the broader nutritional strategy for managing eye pressure. Fifth, quercetin and flavonoids. Fennel seeds contain quercetin, a plant polyphenol with potent anti-inflammatory properties. Inflammation in the eye, particularly in the conjunctiva and cornea, is a major driver of dry eye disease. Chronic dry eye is not just uncomfortable, it causes chronic microdamage to your corneal surface, which can impair vision quality over time. A 2026 comprehensive review specifically examining fennel seed extract for ocular applications concluded that fennel seed extracts may help relieve eye irritation, reduce inflammation in the conjunctiva and cornea, increase tear production, and protect eye tissues from oxidative damage. And sixth, anethol. This is the compound that gives fennel its characteristic licorice aroma, and it may be one of the most important molecules in the seed for systemic anti-inflammatory protection. Anethol has demonstrated antioxidant, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, antifungal, and antibacterial effects across multiple studies. In the context of eye health, its potent anti-inflammatory activity means it may help suppress the inflammatory cascades that accelerate macular degeneration, dry eye, and uveitis, the inflammation of the middle layer of the eye wall. Together, these compounds don't just work in parallel, they work synergistically. Vitamin C regenerates oxidized vitamin E. Zinc activates antioxidant enzymes that utilize beta-carotene. Quercetin suppresses inflammatory signaling that would otherwise amplify free radical damage. This is the power of whole food nutrition over isolated supplementation. If this is making sense, subscribe so you don't miss the next video. I post this kind of science-backed content every single day. Let me draw a clear comparison now, because this is where a lot of people get confused by marketing and conventional wisdom. Carrots are genuinely good for you. I want to be fair here. They are an excellent source of beta-carotene, they're anti-inflammatory, and they contain fiber that supports gut health. But the narrative that carrots are the best food for your eyes is reductive and misleading, and it has caused many people to overlook far more comprehensive dietary strategies. Here's the key limitation of relying primarily on carrots. They address one mechanism. Beta-carotene supports rhodopsin production and serves as an antioxidant, but they lack significant vitamin C. They lack meaningful zinc. They do not contain anethole or the flavonoid profile of fennel. They do not directly address intraocular pressure, tear production, or corneal inflammation. A carrot a day is a good habit, but it is not an eye health protocol. Now let's talk about eye drops, because this is where I think the biggest misunderstanding lives. Most over-the-counter eye drops are vasoconstrictors or lubricants. They reduce redness by constricting blood vessels, which temporarily masks the symptom but does nothing for the underlying inflammation. In fact, chronic use of vasoconstricting drops can cause a rebound effect, where the blood vessels dilate more aggressively once the medication wears off. You've seen this, eyes that become more red over time despite constant drop use. This is the redness drop cycle, and it's common. Lubricating drops for dry eye are more rational. They replace missing tear film, but they too are addressing symptoms, not causes. Your tears are not dry because you lack artificial tear fluid. They are dry because the meibomian glands in your eyelids are inflamed and producing poor quality oil, or because your tear-producing cells are under oxidative stress and inflammation. Suppressing that inflammation at its root through diet, hydration, omega-3 fatty acids, and antioxidants like those in fennel seeds is a fundamentally more effective long-term strategy. Regarding prescription or conventional eye supplements, the AREDS 2 formula, which includes vitamins C and E, lutein, zeaxanthin, omega-3 fatty acids, and zinc, is one of the most evidence-based interventions we have for AMD. It works because it delivers a portfolio of antioxidants and minerals to the eye. Fennel seeds are not a replacement for AREDS 2 in someone already diagnosed with AMD, but for someone at the prevention stage. For the vast majority of people watching this video, a diet built around antioxidant-rich whole foods, including fennel seeds, represents the most powerful, most sustainable, and most accessible way to protect your vision before damage becomes irreversible. Prevention is where nutrition wins decisively. Here is something I find genuinely fascinating. The use of fennel for eye health is not a new discovery dressed up in modern language. It is one of the oldest documented practices in herbal medicine, and modern science is now providing the mechanistic explanation for why ancient practitioners were right. In Ayurvedic medicine, the traditional medicine of South Asia with a documented history spanning thousands of years, fennel seeds were regularly prepared as an eye wash and consumed to improve vision and reduce eye inflammation. They were steeped in water to create a mild infusion that was used topically for irritated, dry, or inflamed eyes. This practice has continued for centuries across the Indian subcontinent, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean. Ancient Roman physicians recorded the use of fennel for sharpening the sight. In medieval European herbalism, fennel was classified as an ophthalmological herb, specifically noted for its effects on eye clarity and inflammation. Now, you might be thinking, ancient herbalism is interesting, but is it science? And the answer is increasingly yes. Let me explain the mechanism behind the traditional eye wash preparation specifically. When fennel seeds are steeped in warm water, they release water-soluble compounds, including flavonoids, phenolic acids, and anethol, into the infusion. When this solution is applied gently to the eye, these compounds have direct contact with the conjunctival and corneal surfaces. They can exert anti-inflammatory effects locally, suppressing the immune mediators that drive conjunctivitis, dry eye, and surface irritation. A 2026 comprehensive review published in the International Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences Review and Research explicitly examined fennel seed extract as a natural aid for eye health. The researchers concluded that fennel seed extracts contain bioactive compounds, including flavonoids, volatile oils, and phenolic antioxidants, and that these compounds have anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and soothing effects. They specifically highlighted the potential for fennel extract to reduce inflammation in the conjunctiva and cornea, increase tear production, and protect eye tissues from oxidative damage. There is also an animal study examining the effect of fennel seed aqueous extract eye drops on cataract formation, showing that fennel extract could reduce oxidative factors in eye tissue, potentially interrupting the lens protein aggregation process that leads to cataracts. This is not a claim that fennel seeds cure cataracts or restore lost vision. That would be inaccurate, but what this body of evidence suggests is that fennel seeds, both consumed as food and used as a gentle topical preparation, represent a physiologically plausible, historically validated, and increasingly scientifically supported tool for protecting eye health from the ground up. And if you are finding value in this kind of root cause, evidence-based health content, I would genuinely love for you to subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you don't miss videos like this, because the topics we cover here can change how you approach your health for the rest of your life.